Good afternoon again, boys and girls, and I hope that you had a great week. And from your last session, let me hear something that you remember or that you can recall from your last critical mathematics session.
We did solid shapes.
Solid shapes. All right. What about the solid shapes and plane shape?
The solid shape has mass and
it has mass.
The plane shape is
flat. So you have this bottle of water and you have this paper. Your plane shape would be what? Which one?
The paper.
Good. So what about the paper?
It's flat.
It's flat. What else?
It has no.
You could take it paper. Take the paper.
It has no weight.
It has no weight. It can be molded into anything, crushed or so. And what about a solid?
It has weight.
It has weight.
Cannot be easily crushed.
Cannot be easily crushed, especially if it's a different material. What else? You can hold your water, the bottle. What else about it compared to the paper?
It has different shapes that make it up.
Okay, it has different shapes. It has depth.
Yeah.
The paper has a depth. As you would have said, the paper is flat. Agree? Good. So, now we have the solids, we have the plane. Tell me something about the area. And do you think you can recall, even from your previous grades, what the area would be and the previous class? So if you were to explain the area of this paper, what would you say? Or where would you find that? Yes, you show me with the paper.
The areas is around the shape.
Show me.
Like it's around here.
Sure. Think about what you said for the area. Yes, Shamar.
You would check the faces, or just check the faces and multiply it by.
All of that? I don't need all of that. I just want you to tell me the basic about this paper. How would you explain the area of this paper, or the area of this room, or the area of the table?
Length times width.
Length times width. What about just showing me that the area is this surface here? Right? This is the area. This is this area, so I can say the surface area. Okay? Now around it is called the perimeter. Exactly. So you know, you just had to correct yourself. Now even with this solid, the area would be where? If you had to find the area of that.
The top.
The top? Why you say the top?
Because it has a flat surface.
Because it has a flat surface. Anything else? The area, basically the surface, all around, all over, top, bottom, every part that has the surface, right? The only thing is that the area, the different parts would be what?
Unequal.
No, not unequal. Well, unequal can work, yeah, but what about? Hold the bottle for yourself, check it, and tell me, what about the different parts of the area? What could you say, even using that bottle? You said the area would have been the top alone. I would have said the area would be all over, all around. But what about it, huh?
So it will equal to one area?
Yes, it would be. But what about, you have a circle. You have a larger circle, right? If it's another shape, here you would have to do some dissecting to know what shape you have. Right? Do you understand that?
Yes, miss.
We see in a bottle, yes, but if you realize the bottle is of a different dimension, different parts, but we can recognize that there is a circle. You can also recognize that there is a larger circle, but as I said, we would have to do some dissecting to know exactly what shape we can come up with to know how to find the total surface area for this. Even if we use this here hole, show me a surface area. There is your surface area. Show me a total surface area.
The whole shape.
Show me it.
Sides. The edges.
Exactly. So all around you have surfaces. You can touch it. You can go around it. Right? You have surface. So we have to find the total surfaces of this entire thing. But what about the shape? Do you have the same shapes? All around? No, we don't have the same shape all around. Right? So it means that we have to find the area of different shapes. And if you notice with this, don't say a bird, but could you tell me a mathematical shape looking at this? Could you determine? By just looking. Yes or no? Yeah. A regular shape. Or a regular polygon. Could you recognize ones quickly? No, yes. No. Right? So you would probably have to cut this up in different parts to find a shape, find the different shapes that you can get out of it. Right? Take for instance, the last session we did cuboid or cubes. What about a cube?
It's a square. It's made up of squares.
Made up of squares, all squares. So that is simple to find. So we know if we can visualize what the cube look like and we can touch it, what we know about the cube. Other than squares, what else? What about the squares?
They're all equal.
How many?
It has 6.
6 squares, right? So we know that we have 6 surface areas. Agree?
Yes, miss.
Sure you're visualizing it?
Yes, miss.
Good. So what we did in one of the sessions, we had this, and it is called the
Cube. No, net.
the net of the cube. Right? The net of the cube, because as I would have said with the bottle, for us to know the different shapes in this bottle, we may need to dissect it, open it up, right? Like this. So we have the cube. We know the cube has 6 squares, agree?
Yes, miss.
6 squares, and if we fold these squares equally, we will get the cube. Agree?
Yes, miss.
So, by looking at it, we know this square. So this is a simple one. We know that we have to find 6 areas for the squares. If we expand it, we can see the 6 squares. Agree? So, with saying that, and I am not going to remind you what is the formula for the area of a square. I'm going to just put one net on the board, and you will find the total surface area as if it was a cube. So I'm not going to put a cube, I'm going to put the net of the cube, and I'm just going to give you one set of information, and you will find the total surface area. Let me see if you remember what you did in your last session. Okay? Good, prepare. Are you looking a little worried? Not to be worried. Just try to recall. So, assuming that this is of equal dimension, it's not drawn to scale. Hopefully, looks like a square. Could it pass?
Yes.
A little bit, huh? I'll take that. How many I need?
6.
I need 6. 6 right down, straight down?
No.
Why not?
Because if you fold it, it won't.
Because if you fold it, it won't enclose on all the sides. Okay, assuming this is drawn to scale. I shouldn't say to scale. Okay, so I need one more. And mind you, I can put my other 2 any part of this square, right? I can put it any part because when it folds, it will lock itself. But so I am taking here. And I will do here. Good. So one length of this square is equal to 2 cm. I would like you to find total surface area. So even as you get that, you're going to tell me exactly what to write to. So to find my total surface area of a cube, what would be the formula? What would be the formula?
The formula for
total surface area of the cube.
length and width.
Length and width. Alia?
I agree.
Flip back in your book. How many areas we find in?
6.
6 areas we find in. So that means 6 equal areas actually, right? So we can use the 6. What are the areas, the shape?
Squares.
Squares. What is the formula for the area of a square?
The length times width.
The length times the
Width.
the length times the width. But in actuality, we only have lengths, right? They are all equal. Yes, we can say length times width, but all of them are 1, so we can just say length, right? And you said length times width. So if I don't use width, what could I put? Length times length times length, or we can have L square. Do we remember that?
Yes.
Oh, we did. So what should I write? 6. And in the bracket the length is 2 cm by 2 cm, or we can say 2 cm square. What could we say now?
First you do the bracket.
And you will get
4.
2 2s 4, and because you're multiplying cm by cm, you will get cm squared. Remember when we were doing the laws? So 2 2s 4, and then what we have to do with the 6?
Multiply it with the 4.
Multiply it with the 4, so what would we get? 6 fours?
20, 24.
Sure?
Yes, miss.
Positive?
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Alright. So you'll get 24 cm squared. And we should not have forgotten that. Because we know area 1 is equal to 2 by 2 is 4. Area 2, 4. Area 3, 4. Doesn't matter which one I call 2 or 3. Area 4, 4. 5, 4. 6, 4. So when we add all the 4s, 4 plus 4
8,
plus 4,
6, 10, 12,
12 plus 4
16,
plus 4
22,
plus 4,
20.
20 plus 4.
24.
So we got 24 total area, right? So you must be able to recognize that in order for you to find the total surface area, you need to know the different parts of the surfaces. In this case, we have the same thing 6 times. So all we needed to do, multiply one area, value of area, by 6, or find the area of each part and do what with it?
Multiply.
And add it up. Find the area of each part and add it up like what we just did. Right? I need you to take this down very quickly so that you can even remember what you would have learned and be able to put it into practice. So we have what? 2 minutes? So students, please be reminded to practice, practice, practice. So easily we can forget what we would have done a few days ago. If you don't practice, that means you will lose everything that is in your short-term memory if you don't ensure that you get it into your long-term memory for future references. So even as you write, okay, thank you. So to find the total surface area, what we need to know?
The area of 1 square.
Generalize it. Suppose it weren't squares alone. What you need to know?
The surface, the amount of surface.
The amount of surfaces. What else about the surfaces?
The amount, the...
Think about a bottle also. Think about this.
The shapes.
The shapes of the surfaces, the type of shapes, because that's the only way you would know what area to find or what formula to use, right? So you must keep an open mind with that. You must know the amount of shapes. You must know the shapes. How many shapes? What the shapes are to use the formula in relation with the shapes. In this case, we have all what shapes?
Squares.
All squares. So we can either find the area of all the squares and add it up, or we can find the area of one shape and multiply it by
the amount of surface.
how many is that for the cube?
6.
Good. Right? So you must keep that in mind. Know the shapes, know how many, know the type of it, and the formula that will represent that shape that you're seeing there. Good. So this was the cube. What other what other solid we looked at?
The cuboid.
The cuboid. Which one of the nets represent the cuboid?
The green.
Good. Pick it up. Tell me about the shapes now.
There are 4 rectangles.
There are 4 rectangles. So if we to find the total surface area, what is one thing we need to know?
The types of shapes.
Good. And now that you know one of the type is?
Rectangle.
A rectangle. So we need to know what else about a rectangle to use to find the total surface area.
Its area.
Its area represented by the formula.
Yes.
Right? What other shape? Or do you have any other shape?
2 squares.
We have 2 squares. Sure about the squares? Huh?
Yes.
Good. We have 2 squares. So we have 2 squares and 4 rectangles. In this case, because we have squares at the sides, our rectangle should be equal. Right? Not drawn to scale here. One look a little larger or 2 look a little larger, but not to worry. Then we have the square. So we can say the total surface area of the cuboid, what we have? What shape?
Rectangle.
What about how many rectangles?
4.
4 rectangles. Formula for rectangle? Anybody can recall?
Formula for a rectangle.
Think about the rectangle. What you have?
Length plus width.
Length plus
Width.
length times width. And what else we have?
Squares.
2 squares. And what's the formula for squares?
Length. Length times.
Length times length.
Length times length or
Length times width.
Length to the second power.
length to the second power. Great. So when we can determine 4 rectangles, the length and the width, and we can determine 2 squares, the length, by the length, what we need to do with it? Add it up. All right. So we have our shape here. Let's get some dimension. Let's get 4 meter, 1 meter. If here is 1 meter, how much would be here? How much would be here? If this side is 1 meter, how much would be here? 1 meter. Because when the shape is enclosed, please enclose your shape. And remember, the width here is 1. So when it's enclosed, the same width is enclosed to make the square, to form the square there. So that also must be 1 meter. Right? So despite you didn't get a value here, you will know that value from what you have on this other part. Understood?
Yes.
Good. So we need 4 length. What's the length? What's the length given?
4.
4. What's the width given? 1. By 2. What's the length for the square? 1. Square. 1 square, right? Or 1 by 1. So what do we do now?
You should do the formula for the rectangle first.
Okay, so so what would you get in the bracket?
4 ones 4.
4 ones 4. So we have 4 in the bracket plus 1 ones
Just
One ones?
One.
One. So we have 1 in the bracket. What next?
You have to
multiply the 4 by the 4.
4 fours?
8, 16.
16. I'll put in my meter square. I left it out because of space. Don't leave it out. And then 2 by 1?
2.
2 meters square. So what do I do next?
You add
I'm getting
8.
18 meters square. Copy. So you must be able to recognize your shapes. How many shapes? What are the types of the shapes? With the formula that represents the shapes. And then you can determine how you can find your total surface area by finding each shape and adding it, summing it up. In this case, we have 4 equal rectangles. So as long we can find the area of one, we multiply it by 4, we will find the area of the others. Total. And we have 2 squares. So we find the area of 1 and we multiply it by 2, we will find the area of the 2 squares. Sum all the areas up and you will get your total surface area. Great. So, don't you think when you're finding the total surface area of a shape, knowing how to draw the net, wouldn't that be helpful?
Yes.
yes.
Knowing how to, when you dissect it, how it may look. This bottle might have many different patterns. When if you cut it open, cut the bottle open and you put it flat, you still might not get a clear shape because of the irregularity of the bottle. However, you can still divide that shape that you would have gotten into shapes to see how close possible you can come up with shapes. So, could I take this?
Yes,
Yes.
miss.
All right. So we did the net and the cuboid. So having another shape, give me another solid quickly. We had a cylinder. Think about how could we draw a cylinder? What could I do? Draw what?
A circle.
A circle. Something like a circle.
Yeah, a rectangle.
Rectangle where?
Come from the side.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 lines coming down.
Add the circle at the bottom.
And we can have another circle. Assuming that it's drawn properly, right?
Yes.
On visualizing from visual, what could you tell me?
It had 2 circles.
You have 2 circles. So we already know that if this was an enclosed cylinder and we had to find the surface area, what is one of the area we needed to know? The area of what?
One is a circle.
Of a circle. How many?
2.
So we need to know the area of 2 circles. Good. But what about this? What do you have there? What shape?
That is something.
Could you visualize if you had a cylinder and you cut that cylinder open, what shape you would get?
A circle.
A circle. So if you cut the cylinder open, you would get a circle.
Not quite sure.
Not quite sure. Look at this. Can we say this is a cylinder?
Yes.
Not a perfect one, but could we say this is a cylinder?
Yes.
What you see here,
Circle.
supposed to be a circle, right? What you see here,
Circle.
another circle. Agree?
Yes.
So we have two circles for this cylinder, right? Assume that is enclosed. So if I cut this cylinder open, what do I get?
A rectangle.
A rectangle, or it could be a square, depends on the size of it, right? So despite it's not seen visibly here, if you use your imagination and you cut it open, you will get a.
Rectangle.
So our net of a cylinder, you should have, what you should have?
It's
Two circles.
Two circles and
a rectangular.
a rectangle. Right? Something like that. So assume we close the rectangle and we close the circle, it will form back your cylinder. So your homework is to make the net of a cylinder. Okay? Right, so we do the cube and the cuboid for today. What we need to know about the cube?
It has 6 faces.
6 faces. We need to know what are they, if they're squares or rectangles or so. And the cube we only have squares or rectangles? Squares. And the cuboid, what about?
It has both squares and rectangles.
It has rectangles and squares, so we need to know how many squares, how many rectangles. Put the areas together to get your total. As I said once again, practice. Practice make perfect. You will remember, it will go into your long-term memory. So in future, when someone asks you about a cube or a cuboid, you will know something about it. Right? Do enjoy. Have a blessed afternoon. Please prepare for your English session and enjoy it while it lasts. Later.
Hello boys and girls, good afternoon and welcome to Critical English for grade 7 to 8. Good afternoon, Shamar. Good afternoon, Alia. Making sure I'm getting it right. All right, how are we today?
Okay.
Today we have a very, very simple lesson, and this is one of the one of the most practical lesson in terms of what we do with speech. So speech. Have you ever heard of direct and indirect speech?
A little bit.
A little bit. So tell me what you think that could mean, and let's move from there.
Direct speech is saying directly what you mean.
Direct what you mean. Directly what you mean. And
Direct is cutting the sentence to give the main idea.
cutting the sense to give the main idea. Not necessarily. What about you, Alia? Good try though. Good try, Shamar. Yeah.
I think direct speech is
So direct speech is sort of correct, saying what you mean. Indirect speech is far from what it was. Yeah.
indirect speech is not
You forgot. All right. You just had it. All right. So let's look at a video. I have a video queued up for us this afternoon, and we're going to look.
Welcome.
And we're going to look at that, and then we're going to come back, share some ideas and some thoughts on what it can be, what it is, how do we go about doing it. So we're paying attention to all of this, right? The video is more or less the lesson in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Good? So we're paying attention. You can make notes if you would like, and then we come back and then we try to complete some exercise.
To free grammar lessons. Today we are going to learn about direct speech versus indirect speech, or sometimes also referred as direct and indirect narration. This is the most demanding topic of grammar and you must understand it very carefully. So without a further ado, let's get started. What is a narration? Narration is the act of representing the words of speaker. That is, how you are representing the way a person has spoken. There are two main ways of reporting the words of speaker. First, direct speech, and second, indirect speech. Let's look into each of them in detail. So what is a direct speech? The actual words of the speaker are quoted as it is without any change. The exact words of the speaker are enclosed in inverted commas or quotation marks. For example, Yogesh was studying when his friend John came. John asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "I am studying." Now, if John wants to report what Yogesh said as it is, then he can say, Yogesh said, "I am studying." This is direct speech. Here you can see the quotation mark around the sentence, "I am studying." So, said is the reporting verb here and "I am studying" is the reported speech. Let's look into one more example. Lucy was wearing a skirt. Rajesh asked Lucy, "Which colored skirt you are wearing?" Lucy said, "I am wearing white skirt." Now, if Rajesh wants to report what Lucy said, he can say, "Lucy said, I am wearing white skirt." This is direct speech as the words are as it is without any modification. I hope you are clear with direct speech. Now let's understand what is indirect speech. Here the actual words of the speaker are transformed and they are said or written in a simple language. Now why do we need indirect speech? The reason for the change is to avoid confusion while using a direct speech in reporting. Let's take the examples that we saw in the direct speech to convert them into indirect speech. We saw that in direct speech we use the words as it is. Yogesh said, "I am studying." Now converting this to indirect speech, it becomes Yogesh said that he was studying. What are the changes that you can identify here? First is removal of inverted commas. Second is change of tense. You can see the present became past tense. And third is the use of conjunction that. Please remember these changes. Let's look into another example that we saw earlier. Lucy said, I am wearing white skirt. Converting this to indirect speech, it will become Lucy said that she was wearing white skirt. What are the changes you can identify here while converting from direct speech to indirect speech? Here also, first is removal of inverted commas. Second one is the change of tense. Third is use of conjunction that. I hope you are clear with the fundamental difference between direct and indirect speech. Let's quickly revise what we have learned in this video. Firstly, we discussed what exactly is a narration. It is an act of representing the words of the speaker. Then we discussed that there are two ways of achieving it. First is direct speech and second is indirect speech. In direct speech, the actual words of the speaker are quoted as it is without any change. The exact words of the speaker are enclosed in inverted commas. Finally, in indirect speech, the actual words of the speaker are transformed and are said or written in a simple language. That's all about direct and indirect speech in this video. In the next video, we will discuss how to
Alright, so we'll stop there. And now we will talk about what we are looking at. So let's go to slideshow. And we are going here. Alright, good. So, what did we learn about direct speech? And what did we learn about indirect speech? So who wants to go first?
The direct speech.
So Shamar didn't even give Ali a chance to even attempt at direct speech. All right, Shamar, go ahead. You want to go?
No.
You want to go? Do you want to do indirect speech?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, Shamar. I was just pulling your legs. That's all right. Go ahead.
The direct speech, sees exactly what it is.
So first of all, we understand speech to account for narration, and narration is what? Reporting the words of the speaker. So if we go home and said, Mommy, what? He said, and we say what he said. Isn't that so? Or we say, today this and this and this happened. Notice the two different ways in which we could have presented that speech or narration. Yes? And this is something that we do daily. Isn't that so? Yes, good. So when we look at direct speech, we're saying that we are reporting the exact words of the speaker. And how do we identify direct speech, Shamar? With the use of commas, in uplifted commas. All right? Uplifted commas. And then, what else? Is there anything else that we want to identify in direct speech? Nothing else? So we must include, it doesn't change the words of the speaker, right? And we must account for the speakers as well by saying that the subject said, comma, uplifted commas, what they would have said, okay? Or what they would have spoken. And Alia, your chance now to tell us about indirect speech.
Indirect speech are actual words of the speaker that are transformed into past tense, and they don't use uplifted commas.
So we remove the uplifted commas. So and another name for indirect speech is reported speech, right? So if we're reporting something, we can't necessarily, we're not expected to include, he said, uplifted comma. That would be in narrative writing, all right? If we include a dialogue. But when we're doing reporting writing, or using indirect speech, we want to make sure that we're transforming what they would have said into a reported state, right? And we do that by, of course, removing the uplifted commas. What else?
Changing the past.
Changing the verb, the tense of the verb, from present to past, because if we said he said and we're reporting whatever he said, we're reporting it as though it's happening now, right? Or he said he's saying it now. But in the reported speech or the indirect speech, it is in the past. We're reporting something that would have already happened. All right? And so we have to change it from present to past. All right? Any other changes happening there? Use of a part of speech. Use of the part of speech of the conjunction that. He said that I was studying. All right? He said that I was studying. All right, so let's go through it in writing. We would have discussed that. The actual words of the speaker are quoted as it is. So there is no change made to what the person would have said. 2, the exact words of the speaker are enclosed in uplifted comma. Example, he said, I am studying. Indirect speech, actual words of the speaker are transformed, said or written in a simple language. Example, he said that he was studying. And the things we observe, the commas were removed, the tense of the verb was changed, and we made use of the conjunction that. All right, so your exercise is to punctuate the following sentences to make them direct speech. So you may begin. Let's see what you do with them. So what are the things that we must see in a direct speech?
Thing that we should see.
Punctuation marks. So let's try to do the first one together. Yes? Good. Harish said, what should come behind said? Anything? Any punctuation mark? Uplifted comma. So we just put an uplifted comma. Harish said. All right, let's go back. Here. He said.
I am studying.
We're looking for punctuation.
A comma, then uplift.
Comma to separate what he said and his exact words. So we must have a comma and then the uplifted commas. So go ahead and put your commas where necessary and then your uplifted commas where necessary. And the last punctuation mark or the end mark must be enclosed in the uplifted comma. All right? Brian, how much more time do I have? All right, thanks. Almost done?
Yes.
a tough one, Alio. Yeah?
No, I don't really know how to like switch it around.
No, you're not switching it around. You're just punctuating to make it direct speech. So the indirect speech is what we're going to transform. Yeah. Well, we're coming to that shortly. All right, 2 minutes to wrap up.
What's before deep?
Kuldeep. Kuldeep. All right, are we done?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's hear what you have, Shamara.
Greta cried,
After cry,
comma. Uplifted, comma. I want those biscuits. Close.
that's 2. What was the first one? The first one says Harish said, comma, I am hungry for knowledge. You missed that one.
Didn't you give us that one?
Oh yeah. Oh, my bad. I'm hungry and tired, probably. Yes. So number 2, Greta cried, I want those biscuits. Inderjeet said. So we're going through and you mark to see which one you got correct and which one you needed to work on. Yeah?
Yeah.
Inderjeet said, comma, in uplifted commas, direct quotation, my dress is getting wet. Jagdivan said to his mother, in uplifted commas, please buy me a new dress for the party. Not sure why it has to his mother. It should have been her. Kuldeep said to the police, in uplifted comma, keep my bag and baggage safe. How many did we get correct? So the number 4 and 5 were a little bit tricky, yeah? Because there were more words after the verb, the reporting verb, isn't that so? But did he say those words? No. So in direct speech, we're only quoting what? The exact spoken words. So did we get the 2, 4, and 5 correct?
I missed out, please.
Please. All right. Okay. All right. So we can work on that. And then I want to go to this one so we can do this one. It says identify, and then we come back to the converting to from direct to indirect if we have some time. But let's do this one. Identify whether the following sentences are direct or indirect, and then it should be done. Write D for direct and I for indirect. 1. The teacher said, oil floats over water. 2. The principal said that she wanted everyone to attend the assembly. 3. My father asked me why I was not studying for the examination. 4. The uncle said to Auntie, have you prepared the food? And 5. Hina said, I won't get up early in the morning tomorrow. So just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you account for D, whether the sentence is an example of a direct speech, or I, if it's indirect speech. Following?
Yes.
All right. Finish? Ali? All right, so let's go. The teacher said, number 1, what do you have?
Direct.
Direct, and you know this because we are seeing quotation marks, yes?
Yes.
And number 2,
Indirect.
indirect. Number 3,
Indirect.
indirect. Number 4,
Direct.
direct. Number 5,
I have
direct. So 5 out of 5?
Yes.
Good. So we're able to identify and differentiate indirect as against direct, because direct speech has what we call quotation marks, right? The uplifted commas, okay? As against indirect speech, where as soon as we look at it, we see no quotation marks. So we know that immediately it is indirect. So that's like, what do you call these things that you life hack? Life hack 101. Just learn life hack 101 in identifying direct and indirect, yeah? Good. Hashtag. Hashtag life hack. All right, let's try to do number 1 and 2. We have a minute remaining. So let's try to do number 1. Converting direct speech into indirect. So what should we do? How would you convert that, Shabar?
indirect.
From direct. So these are direct speech, yes?
Yes.
And we've just corrected, punctuated them to account for direct speech. Now we want to convert these sentences in direct speech to now sentences in indirect speech form. What is the first thing we want to do?
Take out the quotation marks.
All right, so we would have, of course, Harry said, removing not just the quotation mark, we'd also remove the comma after said, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, because we can have a comma right there. So Harry said what?
I am hungry for knowledge.
Can Harry say, I am hungry for knowledge in the direct speech?
He would.
Let's try to do it on the board. So tell me what to write. Harish.
It's harsh.
Why am I saying harish? Harsh, yes. Harsh said what?
He
So, he is,
he was hungry.
Yes.
he was
Hungry for
hungry for knowledge. L-E-D-G-E. All right. So what did we notice? First of all, we took off the comma and everything here we transformed, replacing, of course, the pronoun I with he, because he can't say Harry said I was hungry for knowledge. We are counting for that in the direct speech. So he was hungry for knowledge. Change of tense here. Yes, from present to past. You want to try the next one, Alia?
Greta cried.
Gita. We're all seeing our own things today, yeah?
Yeah.
Gita cried. Oh, and we forgot something here. The conjunction
Greta cried.
that. Har said that he was hungry for knowledge. Yes. Gita cried. What is there?
I want those pieces.
What will we transfer it to? That. And we transfer I to she, the pronoun. She wanted those yes, those biscuits. So you're going to do we're going to do 3, 4, and 5 for homework. Let me change the slide because y'all funny. Yes, so I'm changing the slide to hide the answers. All right, so let's look at our conclusion today. What did we learn? We learned that direct speech is the exact word that the speaker says, while indirect speech or reported speech is transformed to account for what they say without quoting exactly as they say it. All right? And we see a transformation from direct to indirect by removing, of course, what? The punctuation marks, because it's not just uplifted commas, the punctuation marks. We do what? We change the verb tense, and then we do what? We add the conjunction that. All right? So when we come on Friday, we're going to continue in looking at how to go about converting a little bit more in detail, converting in direct speech to indirect speech and indirect speech back into direct speech. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Akila. Thank you, Shamar, for always being good students. Thank you to the viewing public for joining us today. We will see you on Friday. Do have a good evening.